Humans versus Galactic Empire. Invaders wiped out in an instant. The alarm systems across Earth screamed at the same time. Admiral Tae-jin was drinking his morning coffee when every screen in his office turned red. He dropped the cup and ran to the command center. His heart was beating fast, but his face stayed calm. He had trained for this moment his whole life. "Sir, we have multiple contacts," shouted a young officer. "They just appeared near Jupiter. The sensors say there are thousands of them." Tae-jin looked at the main screen. Thousands of ships hung in space like a swarm of metal insects. They were big, much bigger than anything humans had ever built. Each ship looked like it could destroy a city with one shot. And there were so many of them. "Get me the president," Tae-jin said quietly. "And wake up everyone. I mean everyone." Across the solar system, humans scrambled to their stations. On Luna Base, Captain Sang-woo put on his flight suit and ran to his fighter. He had been sleeping when the alarm went off. Now he was wide awake, looking at the radar screen showing all those alien ships. "This is it," he whispered to himself. "First contact, and they brought an army." In the Quantum Research Institute on Earth, Dr. Ji-woo was already at work. She had seen the alerts and immediately started scanning the alien ships. Her equipment was picking up strange energy readings. The alien ships were using power sources she had never seen before. But there was something familiar about the patterns, something she had studied in theory but never seen in practice. "Fascinating," she muttered, typing fast on her keyboard. "They're using quantum field manipulation, but in a very old-fashioned way." Her assistant looked at her like she was crazy. "Old-fashioned? They just appeared out of nowhere." "Yes, but the method is crude," Ji-woo said. "Like using a hammer when you could use a precision tool." At the Global Defense Headquarters, Hae-won sat in front of a wall of screens. She was an intelligence officer, trained in first contact protocols. Everyone had always hoped first contact would be peaceful. Now looking at that massive fleet, she knew better. Her equipment picked up a signal. It was coming from the alien fleet. "I'm getting something," she called out. "They're trying to communicate." The signal was translated by the computers. The message was simple and cold. "Primitive species of the third planet. We are the Velkorn Imperium. We have conquered 10,000 worlds across this galaxy. You will surrender immediately. You have 72 hours to submit to our rule. If you resist, we will destroy your cities and take your people as slaves. You cannot fight us. You cannot hide from us. Surrender or die." The message played across every screen on Earth. People everywhere stopped what they were doing and stared in horror. Some panicked. Some cried, but many just got angry. Tae-jin read the message 3 times. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. 72 hours, he said. "They're giving us time. That means they're not sure about us. They want us to be afraid." The president appeared on his screen. She looked tired but determined. "Admiral, what are our options?" "We fight," Tae-jin said simply. "We've been preparing for this possibility for decades. It's time to see if our preparations were good enough." "Can we win?" the president asked. Tae-jin looked at the enemy fleet on his screen. "Ma'am, I don't know, but I know we won't surrender. Humanity didn't come this far to become slaves." The president nodded. "Then we fight. I'll address the people. You get our forces ready." Across Earth and all the colonies, the military mobilized. Ships that had been in dock were launched. Weapons platforms came online. Soldiers reported to their stations. Mars, Luna, the asteroid bases, all of them prepared for war. On the alien flagship, Commander Thralix watched Earth through his viewing screen. He was amused. This primitive world thought it could resist? Ridiculous. He had conquered hundreds of worlds. "This would be easy. They have spacecraft," reported one of his officers. "But they are small, very small, and their weapons appear to be basic plasma and kinetic projectiles." Thralix laughed. "Plasma and kinetics? What is this, the Stone Age? Have they not even discovered quantum disruption?" "Apparently not, Commander." "This will be over quickly," Thralix said. "Perhaps we won't even need the full fleet. Ready 10% of our forces. That should be more than enough to crush these primitives." Back on Earth, Ji-woo was still studying the alien ships. She had been working for 12 hours straight without rest. Her eyes were red and tired, but she had found something important. "Admiral Tae-jin," she said over the communication link. "I need to report something." "Go ahead, Doctor, their shields." "I've been analyzing their defensive systems. They're strong, but they have a weakness. They're designed to stop energy weapons and standard kinetic projectiles. But the frequency is wrong for our quantum disruptors. Tae-jin leaned forward. You're saying our experimental weapons might work? More than might, Admiral. I think they'll work very well. Their shields won't even recognize our quantum weapons as a threat until it's too late. How sure are you? 90% sure. Maybe more. Tae-jin nodded slowly. That's good enough. Start preparing the quantum systems. We might actually have a chance. Sang-woo was in his fighter, running systems checks. His squadron was ready. 16 fighters against thousands of alien ships. The odds were terrible. But Sang-woo had trained his whole life for this. He wasn't going to back down now. All pilots, this is your captain, he said over the radio. Yeah, I know. The odds look bad. But remember your training. We're faster than they are. We're smarter than they are. And we're fighting for our home. That makes us dangerous. His pilots responded with determination in their voices. They were scared, Sang-woo could tell. But they were ready. HFY continued to monitor the alien communications. The Velkorn were careless, sending messages without encryption. They didn't think humans could understand their language. They were wrong. Earth's computers had cracked their codes in 6 hours. What HFY heard made her blood run cold. The Velkorn were discussing how to divide up Earth's resources, how to process humans into slave labor, how to strip the planet of everything valuable. They talked about it casually, like discussing the weather. They've done this before, she reported to Tae-jin, many times. They have the whole process planned out. They've destroyed civilizations and enslaved entire species. Not this time, Tae-jin said firmly. Not to us. The 72 hours passed slowly. Earth prepared. The military moved into position. Civilians were evacuated to underground shelters. Scientists worked around the clock on weapons and defenses. Nobody slept much. Nobody wanted to. When the deadline arrived, the president sent one message to the Velkorn fleet. No. Just that one word. No explanation. No negotiation. Just Gnome Thralix received the message and laughed again. These primitives choose death. Very well, begin the attack. Let's show them what happens when you defy the Velkorn Imperium. The alien fleet moved forward, crossing the orbit of Mars, their weapons powered up, ready to rain destruction on Earth. They expected an easy victory. They expected the humans to break and run. They were about to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating humanity. Humans versus Galactic Empire. Invaders wiped out in an instant. The Velkorn ships moved through space like sharks through water. They were confident and slow, taking their time. Why rush? The prey couldn't escape. General Do-hyun stood in the Strategic Command Center deep under a mountain in Korea. He watched the tactical display with cold eyes. He had spent 30 years in the military. He had fought in the colony wars. He had defended Mars from raiders. But this was different. This was everything. They're sending only a portion of their fleet, he observed. Arrogant. Their mistake, said Tae-jin through the communication link. Let them think we're weak. Let them keep thinking it. The first Velkorn battle group consisted of 300 ships. Each ship was twice the size of Earth's largest battleship. They moved into position above the moon, their weapons pointing at Earth like fingers of death. Captain Sang-woo got his orders. All fighters engage the enemy. Make them think we're trying our best. His squadron launched from Luna Base, 16 small fighters against 300 massive warships. It looked like insects attacking elephants. The Velkorn didn't even bother to send their own fighters. They just fired their point defense guns. Sang-woo dodged left as red energy beams cut through space where he had been a second ago. Spread out. Make yourself hard to hit. His fighters scattered, firing their standard plasma cannons at the Velkorn ships. The plasma hit the alien shields and fizzled out like raindrops on a window. The shields glowed blue and absorbed everything, no damage, reported one of his pilots. Their shields are too strong. Keep firing, Sang-woo ordered. Let them see what they expect to see. On the Velkorn flagship, Thralix watched the human fighters with amusement. Look at them. They're trying so hard. Like children with toys, his tactical officer agreed. Their weapons are pathetic, Commander. Even our oldest shields can stop such primitive attacks. Should we destroy them? Not yet, Thralix said. Let them waste their energy. Let them lose hope. Then we'll crush them all at once. It's more fun that way. The Velkorn ships began their bombardment of Luna Base. Massive energy beams lanced down from space, hitting the surface of the moon. Explosions bloomed in silence. Sang-woo watched as sections of his home base were destroyed. Luna base is hit, someone shouted. Multiple casualties. Sang-woo's jaw tightened. Friends had just died. People he had trained with, eaten with, laughed with. Gone in an instant. Fall back to secondary positions, he ordered, his voice shaking with controlled rage. Remember the plan. Stay calm. Engineer Yuna worked frantically in the asteroid belt. She was the head designer of Earth's hidden defense platforms. These platforms had been built in secret over 20 years. They looked like ordinary asteroids from the outside. Inside, they contained weapons that no one had ever seen before. How long until we can activate? She asked her team. 10 more minutes. The power cores need to charge fully. Make it 5, Yuna said. People are dying. On Mars, Commander Jin Ho was mobilizing the Red Planet's defense forces. Mars had its own fleet, separate from Earth's. The Martian ships were tough, built to survive the harsh environment of space mining. They weren't pretty, but they were strong. Hold position, Jin Ho ordered. Don't engage yet. Wait for the signal. His officers looked nervous. Earth was being attacked and they were just sitting here. But Jin Ho knew the plan. Everyone had to wait for the right moment. Haewon continued to monitor Velkorn communications. What she heard made her sick. The aliens were laughing. They were making jokes about humans. They were betting on how long Earth would last. They think this is a game, she reported to Do-hyun. They're not even taking us seriously. Good, Do-hyun said. The more they underestimate us, the better. One Velkorn message caught Haewon's attention. They were discussing Earth's technology level. According to their scans, humans were barely capable of basic space travel. The Velkorn had fought civilizations like this 1,000 times. It was always the same. The primitives fought bravely for a while, then they surrendered or died. But there was one comment that made Haewon pause. A Velkorn scientist noted something strange. Earth's energy signatures didn't match their technology level. There were power sources that seemed too advanced. The scientist suggested more scans. Thralix dismissed it. Probably just their power plants. These primitives might know how to generate energy, but they clearly don't know how to use it properly. Look at their pathetic weapons. The scientist didn't argue. Arguing with Thralix was dangerous. Ji-woo was in her laboratory, her eyes glued to her screens. She had been right about the Velkorn shields. They were strong against traditional weapons, but had a critical flaw. They operated on a fixed quantum frequency. If you hit them with weapons that phased through that frequency, the shields wouldn't even register the threat. It's like they built a wall to stop arrows, she explained to her assistant. But we're going to shoot through the spaces between the stones. Will it work? Her assistant asked nervously. It will work, Ji-woo said confidently. Trust the math. Math doesn't lie. The battle continued. More human ships joined the fight. Cruisers, destroyers, gunships. They all attacked the Velkorn fleet with everything they had. Standard plasma, missiles, railguns. Everything bounced off the shields or did minimal damage. The Velkorn lost one ship. Just one. A lucky missile hit a weak point in the engine section. The ship exploded in a ball of fire. Thralix didn't even care. One ship, he scoffed. We have thousands. At this rate, they'll need to fight for years to make a dent in our fleet. And they don't have years. Begin full planetary bombardment. More Velkorn ships moved forward, preparing to turn Earth's surface into a burning wasteland. Their weapons charged up, gathering massive amounts of energy. Do-hyun watched the countdown timer on his screen. Everything depended on timing. Too early and the plan would fail. Too late and millions would die. 30 seconds, he said calmly. Tae-jin was ready. Every ship, every weapon platform, every hidden defense system was waiting for his command. Earth's true military power had been kept secret for decades. They had let the Velkorn see only old technology, outdated weapons, standard defenses. The Velkorn had no idea what was really waiting for them. 20 seconds, Do-hyun counted. Sang-woo's squadron was getting hammered. He had lost 3 fighters already. The rest were damaged. But he kept fighting, kept dodging, kept making the aliens think they were winning. 10 seconds. Yuna's platforms were ready. All across the asteroid belt, hidden weapons came online. Power surged through systems that had never been tested in real combat. This was the moment everything had been built for. 5 seconds. Thralix smiled as he watched Earth on his screen. Soon this planet would be just another conquered world. Another trophy for the Velkorn Imperium. Another species added to their slave populations. 3, 2, 1. Do-hyun took a breath. Then he said the words that would change everything. All forces, engage full combat protocols. Show them what humans really are. Across the solar system, things began to change. Ships that had looked damaged suddenly repaired themselves. Weapons that had seemed primitive began to transform. Hidden systems activated. Secret weapons came online. The Velkorn didn't notice at first. They were too busy celebrating their easy victory. But they were about to learn the most important lesson in warfare. Never ever underestimate your enemy, especially when that enemy is human. The real battle was about to begin. Humans versus Galactic Empire. Invaders wiped out in an instant. The first sign that something was wrong came when Sang-Woo's fighter suddenly moved differently. The engines, which had been sputtering and weak, now roared with power. His weapons display lit up with options he had never seen in standard combat. All pilots, switch to quantum armaments, Sang-Woo ordered. His voice was steady now, no longer pretending to be desperate. Let's show these invaders what we've really got. His fighter accelerated, moving 3 times faster than before. The Velkorn point defense guns tried to track him but couldn't keep up. He locked onto the nearest alien warship and fired. The missile that left his fighter didn't look special. It was small and quiet, but when it hit the Velkorn shield, something amazing happened. The missile didn't explode against the shield. It passed right through like the shield wasn't even there. The Velkorn ship's hull exploded from the inside. Metal twisted and tore. Atmosphere vented into space. The massive warship broke apart in seconds. Direct hit, Sang-Woo shouted. Their shields can't stop our quantum weapons. His squadron opened fire. 16 fighters, now moving at incredible speeds, began tearing through the Velkorn fleet. Ship after ship exploded or went dark. The aliens tried to respond, but their weapons couldn't track the fast-moving human fighters. On the Velkorn flagship, alarms started blaring. What's happening? Thralix demanded. Why are we losing ships? Unknown, Commander. The human weapons have changed. They're passing through our shields like they don't exist. Threlix stared at his screen in disbelief. That's impossible. Our shields are the best in the galaxy. How can primitive weapons— He never finished the sentence. Yuna's platforms in the asteroid belt had just activated. What the Velkorn had thought were asteroids suddenly split open. Inside were weapons that made their own technology look ancient. Massive cannon barrels extended from the rocks. They began to glow with purple light. Gravity well platforms online, Yuna reported calmly. Firing in 3, 2, 1, the platforms fired. The beams that shot out weren't lasers or plasma. They were gravitational forces, compressed and focused. When they hit Velkorn ships, the ships didn't explode. They imploded. The gravity crushed them like tin cans, compressing metal and flesh into tiny balls of dense matter. 10 Velkorn ships vanished in the first volley. Then 20. Then 50. What is that? Screamed a Velkorn officer. What kind of weapon is that? Thralix had no answer. His hands shook as he watched his fleet being destroyed. This wasn't possible. These were primitives. They had basic technology. They shouldn't have weapons like this. From a hidden facility on the dark side of the moon, Dr. Yunji smiled. She had spent 15 years developing the weapons that were now saving humanity. Years of calculations, experiments, and failures. Now finally her work was proving its worth. Activate the singularity cannons, she ordered. Deep space installations that had been disguised as comm satellites came to life. They had been positioned throughout the solar system, waiting for this moment. Each one contained a miniature black hole, carefully contained and controlled. The cannons fired. Beams of pure darkness shot across space. When they hit Velkorn ships, the ships simply ceased to exist. They were pulled into the singularity and crushed out of reality. No explosion, no debris. Just there 1 second, gone the next. The Velkorn fleet was in chaos now. Ships tried to retreat but found their FTL drives weren't working. Earth had deployed quantum jammers that prevented faster-than-light travel. The aliens were trapped. Lieutenant So-Jin sat in the cockpit of her experimental vessel. It was sleek and black, covered in technology that shouldn't exist yet. Earth had found alien probes decades ago, ancient machines drifting through space. Human scientists had reverse-engineered the technology and improved it. Prototype FTL vessel ready for combat, So-Jin reported. Request permission to engage. Permission granted, Tae-Jin replied. Show them what you can do. So-Jin's ship vanished. One moment it was next to Luna Base, the next it was behind the Velkorn lines. She moved through space using short FTL jumps, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. Each time she appeared, she fired quantum torpedoes. Each torpedo destroyed a Velcorn ship. The aliens couldn't fight what they couldn't predict. So Jin was everywhere and nowhere, striking and vanishing before they could respond. Jin-Ho's Martian fleet finally moved into action. The mining ships and ore haulers that had looked so peaceful suddenly transformed. Hidden weapons deployed. Advanced engines activated. The Martian ships weren't military vessels. They were better. They were designed to survive the harshest environments in the solar system. A Velcorn energy beam was nothing compared to a solar flare or an asteroid impact. Martian fleet engaging, Jin-Ho announced. Target the big ones. His ships charged forward, absorbing Velcorn fire that would have destroyed regular warships. Their hulls were made of composite materials designed to withstand extreme temperatures and pressure. The alien weapons scorched them but didn't break through. Then the Martian ships fired back. Their weapons were mining lasers originally built to cut through solid rock. But rocks and spaceship hulls aren't that different when you think about it. The mining lasers cut through Velcorn armor like butter. Do-hyun watched the battle from his command center. The tactical display showed Velcorn ships dying by the hundreds. The plan was working perfectly. Better than perfectly. Sir, the Velcorn are trying to send a distress call, Haewon reported. They're attempting to contact their main empire. Let them try, Do-hyun said. The quantum jammers will stop any signal from getting through. But he was wrong. One Velcorn ship, damaged but still functional, managed to boost its signal enough to punch through the jamming. A brief burst of data shot out into deep space, traveling faster than light toward the heart of the Velcorn Empire. The message was simple. Help. Humans not primitive. Losing fleet. Send reinforcements. Tae-jin saw the message get through. He cursed quietly. We needed more time before they learned the truth. Doesn't matter, Do-hyun said. By the time reinforcements arrive, this fleet will be gone, and we'll be ready for whatever comes next. Jiwoo continued to coordinate the scientific aspects of the battle. Her quantum disruptors were working even better than predicted. The Velcorn shields, so effective against normal weapons, were completely useless. It's like I thought, she explained to anyone listening. They built their shields to stop the weapons they knew about. They never imagined someone might use quantum phasing. It's too advanced for most species, but humans have always been good at exotic physics. A Velcorn science vessel tried to scan the human weapons, desperately trying to understand what was killing them. The scans came back with readings that made no sense. The weapons operated on principles the Velcorn had never seen before. Sang-woo's squadron had destroyed 40 Velcorn ships now. His fighter was performing beautifully. No more pretending to be weak, no more holding back. This was humanity at full power. Captain, we've cleared this sector, one of his pilots reported. What's next? Next sector, Sang-woo said. Keep going until they're all gone. Threlix finally understood the horrible truth. Earth had never been primitive. They had been hiding, waiting, studying the Velcorn fleet from the moment it arrived, learning their weaknesses, preparing the perfect counter. Fall back, he ordered desperately. All ships, retreat. But there was nowhere to retreat to. The quantum jammers prevented FTL jumps. The human ships surrounded them on all sides. The asteroid belt was now revealed to be a massive weapon platform. Earth wasn't a target, it was a fortress, and the Velcorn fleet was trapped inside with humanity's full military might bearing down on them. The battle had turned into a slaughter. The aliens who had conquered 10,000 worlds were being destroyed by the species they had called primitive. Their advanced technology was useless against weapons they had never imagined existed. Yuna's gravity platforms fired again. More ships imploded. Yoonji's singularity cannons erased another battle group from existence. Sojin's prototype vessel continued its ghost strikes. The Martian fleet smashed through the Velcorn formation like a hammer. And through it all, Sang-woo and his squadron danced through space, their quantum missiles finding target after target. The first 300 Velcorn ships were gone in 20 minutes. Threlix stared at his screens in horror. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. Humans versus Galactic Empire. Invaders wiped out in an instant. Threlix watched his fleet die and made a decision. If he was going to lose, he would take Earth with him. He had over 9,000 ships still in reserve, holding position beyond Mars. He would throw everything at the planet. Even if humans had superior weapons, they couldn't stop 10,000 ships all at once. All vessels, he broadcast across his entire fleet. Converge on Earth, full attack. Burn the planet. Kill everything. The massive Velkorn armada began to move. Thousands of warships, each one capable of destroying a city, all heading toward Earth at maximum speed, their weapons charged up, their shields strengthened. This would be their final strike. In the command center, Do-hyun saw the enemy's movement. Every ship in the Velkorn fleet was now heading directly for Earth. They had about 10 minutes before the alien armada would be in range to bombard the planet. "They're going all in," Tae-jin said quietly. "Every single ship." "Good," Do-hyun replied. "That makes things easier." Tae-jin looked at him. "Easier?" "Yes, because now they're all in one place." Do-hyun turned to his communications officer. "Send the activation codes. Operation Absolute Zero is now in effect." Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden among the rocks and ice, something woke up. It had been there for years, built in absolute secrecy. Only a handful of people knew it existed. Even fewer knew what it could do. Yuna received the codes and felt her heart race. She had helped build this weapon, but she had never seen it fired. No one had. It had only been tested in computer simulations. Now they were going to use it for real. Absolute Zero platforms responding, she reported, all systems showing green. Power levels at maximum. The weapon network had taken 8 years to build. Thousands of scientists and engineers had worked on it. It had cost more money than any project in human history, and now, finally, it would serve its purpose. Across the asteroid belt, in a carefully arranged pattern, 30 enormous weapons powered up. They didn't look impressive from the outside. They were just large metal cylinders floating in space among the asteroids. But inside, they contained technology that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. Dark energy collectors, quantum field generators, temporal stabilizers. Each one was a marvel of engineering that most civilizations would take centuries to develop. Humanity had done it in less than a decade. Yoonji monitored the weapons from her facility. This was her ultimate creation. The gravity platforms had been impressive. The singularity cannons had been devastating, but this was something else entirely. Dark energy collection at 100%, she announced. Quantum field stable. Targeting solution locked on all enemy vessels. Do-hyun looked at the tactical display. The Velkorn fleet was still coming, now just 8 minutes away from Earth. 8 minutes from being able to turn the planet's surface into glass. 8 minutes from killing billions of people. "On my mark," Do-hyun said. "Prepare to fire." Sang-woo pulled his fighter back away from the battle zone. He had received the retreat order along with all other human forces. Something big was about to happen. Something that required everyone to get clear. "What's going on?" one of his pilots asked nervously. "I don't know," Sang-woo admitted. "But when command tells us to run, we run." Sojin's prototype vessel jumped back to Luna Base. Jinho's Martian fleet withdrew behind the planet. Every human ship and fighter retreated to safe positions. The Velkorn didn't notice. They were too focused on reaching Earth. Thralix thought the humans were fleeing. Good, let them run. Let them hide in their holes while his fleet destroyed their world. 10,000 ships would make short work of one planet. 6 minutes to firing range, his tactical officer reported. Thralix smiled. "Prepare all weapons. I want that planet to burn." On Earth, Haewon was still monitoring Velkorn communications. She heard their battle cries, their promises of destruction, their celebration of what they thought would be victory. She felt no pity for them. They had come here to enslave humanity. They deserved what was about to happen. Jiwoo stood beside Yoonji, watching the power readings climb higher and higher. The dark energy collectors were gathering energy from the fabric of space itself. The quantum generators were preparing to unleash forces that could tear apart matter at the subatomic level. "This is going to work, right?" Jiwoo asked quietly. Yoonji nodded. "The math is perfect. The simulations all succeeded. It will work, and if it doesn't, then we all die. But I'm not wrong. Trust the science," Do-hyun counted down. 4 minutes, 3, 2. Tae-jin watched the enemy fleet advance. They were so confident, so certain of victory. They had no idea what was waiting for them. No idea that humanity's greatest weapon was about to show them the true meaning of overwhelming force. 1 minute. The 30 weapons in the asteroid belt reached full power. They began to glow with a light that was somehow darker than space itself. Dark energy, captured and compressed, ready to be released. 30 seconds. Every human ship was clear. Every fighter was safe. Earth's orbital platforms had moved behind the planet. There was nothing between the Velkorn fleet and the weapons that would destroy them. 10 seconds. Thralix frowned. Why had the humans stopped fighting? Where were their ships? Something felt wrong. But it was too late to change course now. His fleet was committed. 5 seconds. Do-hyun took one last look at the enemy ships on his screen. 10,000 vessels, enough firepower to destroy a solar system. The greatest invasion force the Velkorn Empire could send. 3, 2, 1. He pressed the button. Fire. The 30 weapons fired simultaneously. Beams of dark energy shot out from the asteroid belt, moving at the speed of light. They reached the Velkorn fleet in less than a second. When they hit the first ships, something incredible happened. The ships didn't explode. They didn't burn. They simply stopped existing. The dark energy beams tore apart the quantum bonds that held matter together. Atoms were ripped into their component particles. Those particles were scattered into energy. That energy dispersed into nothing. But the beams didn't stop with the first ships. They passed through, hitting the next ships in line. And the next. And the next. Each beam could destroy thousands of targets before dissipating. The weapons had been aimed with perfect precision. Each beam cut through the Velkorn formation at exactly the right angle to hit the maximum number of ships. The 30 beams created a grid pattern that covered the entire enemy fleet. The effect was instantaneous. In exactly 3.7 seconds, every single Velkorn ship ceased to exist. 10,000 warships, millions of alien soldiers, all gone, not destroyed, not defeated. Simply erased from reality. Thralix had one brief moment to understand what was happening. His ship's sensors showed the beam coming toward him. His mind had time to process one thought. We never had a chance. Then the beam hit. And Commander Thralix of the Velkorn Empire stopped existing. In the command center, Do-hyun watched the display. Where moments before there had been 10,000 red dots representing enemy ships, now there was nothing. Just empty space. Confirm status, he said quietly. The tactical officer checked his sensors 3 times before responding. Sir, all enemy contacts are gone. 0 Velkorn ships remaining. 0 enemy signals detected. The fleet is completely destroyed. Silence filled the command center. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Within seconds, everyone was cheering. They had won. Against impossible odds, against an enemy that had conquered thousands of worlds, humanity had won. Sang-woo stared at his sensor display in shock. The massive fleet that had been there seconds ago was simply gone. His fighter's computer couldn't find a single enemy ship. Not one. Did that really happen? One of his pilots whispered. Yes, Sang-woo said slowly. We won. We actually won. So-jin felt tears running down her face. She had been prepared to die fighting. They all had been. But instead, they had achieved total victory. The invasion was over. On Earth, people emerged from their shelters. They looked up at the sky where the alien fleet had been moments before. Now there was nothing but stars. The threat was gone. Humanity was safe. Yoonji slumped in her chair, exhausted. Her weapon had worked. The dark energy beams had performed exactly as calculated. She had just created the most powerful weapon in known space. We did it, she whispered. It actually worked. Jiwoo hugged her colleague. 2 scientists working together had created the weapon that saved their species. Taejin allowed himself a small smile. Operation Absolute Zero had been the backup plan. The last resort, the weapon they hoped they would never need to use. But it had worked perfectly. The battle was over. The war was won. In 3.7 seconds, humanity had gone from being victims to being victors. The species that the Velkorn had called primitive had just wiped out their entire invasion force in an instant. Humans versus Galactic Empire. Invaders wiped out in an instant. The celebration lasted for hours. Across Earth and all the colonies, people danced in the streets. They had survived. Against an empire that had conquered 10,000 worlds, humanity had not just survived but won completely. Not a single Velkorn ship remained. Not a single invader had escaped. But in the command center, the leaders of Earth's defense forces were already thinking about what came next. The immediate threat was gone, but the Velkorn Empire was still out there. And now they knew about Earth. President Kim called an emergency meeting. All the key military and scientific leaders gathered on a secure channel. Taejin, Do-hyun, Jiwoo, Yoonji, and a dozen others appeared on screens from various locations across the solar system. We need to discuss our next move, the president said. The Velkorn sent a distress signal before we destroyed them. Their empire knows we exist now. They know we destroyed their fleet. They'll send more ships, Tae-jin predicted. Probably a much larger force this time. Let them come, Do-hyun said firmly. We've shown we can defeat them. We'll do it again if we have to. But Ji-woo shook her head. We can't just wait for them to attack again. We need to send a message. A clear message about what will happen if they try to invade us again. What kind of message? The president asked. Yoonji spoke up. We should tell them the truth. We destroyed their entire invasion fleet in less than 4 seconds. We have weapons they can't even imagine, and we're willing to use them if we have to. But we should also offer peace, added Haewon. Not all aliens are like the Velkorn. We've been monitoring their communications. Some of the species in their empire are slaves, conquered peoples forced to serve. If we position ourselves as enemies of the Velkorn specifically, we might find allies. Tae-jin considered this. A message of strength but also a willingness to talk. We show them we're not to be trifled with, but we're not looking for a fight either. The president nodded. I like it. But how do we send a message that far? The Velkorn Empire is hundreds of light years away. So Jin raised her hand on the screen. I can do it. My prototype vessel can make FTL jumps. Give me a transmitter and I can deliver a message directly to Velkorn space. Too dangerous, Do-hyun objected. We can't risk you getting captured. Then we use the captured Velkorn technology, Ji-woo suggested. We recovered intact communication systems from the destroyed ships. We can reverse engineer their FTL transmitters and send a broadcast across their entire empire. Over the next 3 days, human scientists worked around the clock. They studied the Velkorn technology they had recovered. It was advanced in some ways, primitive in others. The aliens had mastered faster-than-light travel and communication, but their weapons and shields were outdated compared to human innovations. It's fascinating, Ji-woo explained to a group of engineers. The Velkorn followed a different technological path than we did. They focused on energy weapons and shield technology. We focused on quantum mechanics and exotic physics. Neither approach is better or worse, just different. But our approach gave us weapons their defenses couldn't stop. Haewon was working on the message itself. What should Earth say to an empire that had tried to enslave them? She drafted dozens of versions, each one trying to strike the right balance between strength and diplomacy. Finally, she created a message that everyone agreed on. It was simple and clear, with no room for misinterpretation. Meanwhile, Sang-woo and his squadron were exploring the debris field where the Velkorn fleet had been. Even though the dark energy weapons had erased most of the ships completely, some fragments remained. Data cores, shield generators, engine components. Look at this, one of his pilots said, sending over a scan. This engine design is completely different from ours. They use quantum foam to create warp bubbles. We use spatial compression. Both methods work, but theirs is more elegant. Sang-woo smiled. Bag it and bring it back. Our scientists will want to study everything we can find. The recovery operation took a week. Hundreds of intact systems were salvaged from the battle site. Human scientists were like children in a candy store, excited to study alien technology, not to copy it, but to learn from it and understand different approaches to the same problems. Yoonji was particularly interested in the Velkorn power generation systems. They use zero-point energy extraction. We use dark energy collection. Combining both methods might give us even more efficient power sources. Jinho returned to Mars with his fleet. The Red Planet had suffered some damage from Velkorn attacks, but nothing that couldn't be repaired. More importantly, the Martian people were proud. They had fought alongside Earth and proven their worth. We're not just a colony anymore, Jinho told his people. We're defenders of humanity. We stood against an alien empire and won. Yuna was already designing improvements to the asteroid belt defense platforms. The battle had shown that the systems worked perfectly, but she was never satisfied. She wanted to make them better, faster, more efficient. If the Velkorn come back with a bigger fleet, we'll be ready, she promised. 2 weeks after the battle, the FTL transmitter was ready. It was a massive device built in orbit around the moon. It would broadcast the human message across hundreds of light years, reaching deep into Velkorn space and beyond. The entire solar system watched as President Kim prepared to send the message. Every screen on Earth, Mars, and all the colonies showed the same image, the president standing in front of a display showing the galaxy. People of the Velkorn Empire, she began. 2 weeks ago, you sent an invasion fleet to Earth. You demanded our surrender. You threatened to enslave us. You attacked our homes and killed our people. The message was being translated into Velkorn language and broadcast on their frequencies. Everyone in their empire would hear it. Your fleet of 10,000 ships came to conquer us. We destroyed them all in less than 4 seconds. Not a single ship escaped. Not a single invader survived. This is what happens when you attack humanity. She paused, letting that sink in. However, we are not interested in war. We do not seek to conquer others. We will defend ourselves absolutely and completely, but we prefer peace. We are willing to establish diplomatic relations with any species that approaches us in friendship. Another pause. But understand this clearly. Any further aggression toward Earth or human colonies will be met with immediate and overwhelming retaliation. We have weapons you cannot imagine. We have defenses you cannot breach. We have the will and the ability to protect ourselves. The president's voice softened slightly. To the conquered peoples within the Velkorn Empire, to the species who were enslaved and forced to serve against their will, we say this: humanity sees you. We know you exist, and we are willing to help those who seek freedom. She looked directly at the camera. This is our message to the galaxy. Earth is not primitive. We are not weak, and we will not be conquered. Approach us with respect and you will find friends. Attack us and you will find the same fate that befell the Velkorn invasion fleet. The transmission ended. The message shot out into space at faster-than-light speeds, carried by the Velkorn's own technology. Within hours, it would reach the edges of their empire. Within days, every world they controlled would hear it. In the command center, Taejin watched the transmission indicator. It's done. The message is away. Now we wait, Do-hyun said, and we prepare. If they send another fleet, we need to be ready. They won't, Ji-woo predicted. Not for a while anyway. We hurt them badly. They'll need time to rebuild, to reassess, to decide if we're worth the cost of another invasion. Hai-1 was monitoring all frequencies, listening for any response. It came sooner than expected. Just 6 hours after the transmission, a message came back. But it wasn't from the Velkorn Empire. It was from somewhere else. This is the Talvin Confederation, the message said. We received your broadcast. We are a species conquered by the Velkorn 300 years ago. Your victory gives us hope. We wish to open communications. Then another message came. This is the Morven Assembly. We too are enslaved by the Velkorn. Can you help us? And another. And another. Within a day, dozens of messages arrived from species across Velkorn space. All of them were asking the same thing. Can humanity help free them from the Empire? The president looked at Taejin. What have we started? A revolution, Taejin said quietly. We showed them that the Velkorn can be beaten. Now everyone wants to fight back. Do-hyun pulled up a star map showing Velkorn space. Hundreds of worlds, all controlled by the Empire. And now, because of one battle, all of them were thinking about rebellion. This changes everything, he said. So Jin volunteered to make contact with the alien species reaching out to Earth. Her prototype vessel could travel to their worlds, establish communications, and return with information. It would be dangerous, but she was willing to do it. Someone has to be the first, she said. Might as well be me. Sang-woo requested a transfer to Deep Space Patrol. His squadron would be the first line of defense if any more alien fleets approached. They would scan, observe, and warn Earth of any threats. We won this battle, he told his pilots. But the war might just be beginning. Yoonji and Ji-woo began working on new projects. Not just weapons, but peaceful technology too.